returns in general. What is realistic for people to make if you haven't got this compounding thing? So, I've been talking to people on risk reviews and trying to get them to understand that you should be scaling when you're doing well rather than expecting to knock it out of the park from day one.
So I'll give two different perspectives because I think prop firms, you can't really have the same risk to reward or the return or the percentage aim, because at the end of the day, it is somewhat gamified, but there's somewhat, you have to play it, right? The system's completely different from personal capital. Now let's start off with personal capital or even personal money. Personal money is real money. People fucking forget that. That's real money. Like people say, I'll make 10%, but what is the stress tolerance of that? What is the risk factor involved? Say you make 10% a month, hypothetically, okay. But what does that entail? Does that mean I have to be an 8% drawdown? Does that mean I have to lose 20%? Like, what is the stress of that? And if you think about it, no one's going to give...
Particularly in these markets, the vol at the moment is
exactly
ridiculous.
Imagine that. I'd be like, okay, look, if you give me $1 million, but I'll put 100K like floating. You might lose 100K and I might make you 100K. I don't know. Like 50-50, let's see. That just makes no sense. No one in the right mind with real money would give you that. But if your risk is low and the returns are still good, it's about looking at the bigger picture when it comes to real money and scalability. I know 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but on average, it's literally 1 to 3% on average is most of what my peers make and most of what I would aim for.
And it's off an initial outlay so much lower than that. Massive gearing.
Exactly that. And that's because of the amount of capital. And then, like I said, we go back to the number of fifth thing we said was the scalability, because the numbers are so large. You can't be putting that much risk on the table for other people, for funds, and there's a lot of responsibility. It's wealth preservation as opposed to like accumulation or making money.
I think I've always said it's more important, in fact, to know how to preserve it, how to stay in the game.
Preserving wealth is hard.
Until you find the run.
Yeah.
And then you play around.
And it's true, because if you say you've made your first 100K, and the preserving that's hard. Everyone thinks like making $1 million is amazing. Like, okay. But people think, the average herd think, how can I spend it? That's why it sounds like a lot. I could buy a house, I could buy a car. But really and truly, if you invest it, what can it really yield you? Does it really make you truly financially free? Does it really pay for your whole family, your trips? Like, is it more than enough? Not really that much. So you have to really understand like the fundamentals and the basics of what your goals are: financial literacy, wealth preservation, and just money as an overall. But then let's quickly tap on prop firms as well. But prop firms are a huge opportunity, and that's because the risk factor, or in the case of the argument of wealth preservation, there isn't any really, because you pay Alpha Capital like it's like $800 or $1,000 for the 200K challenge. Once you've got that refund, that's it. There's literally
back again.
There's zero on the table. So if there's zero on the table, the opportunity is in abundance, but the risk is zero. So this was a mistake I made last year. Was too conservative because I was just aiming for that 1-2%. But because of that, we were not tapping into the potential of what prop firms can do. So therefore, there should be securing the refund and then really aiming for like that 4 or 5%. Where however.
And do you reinvest straight away? Do you go and buy another challenge, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've got challenges just sitting there all the time. When Alpha Capital give me a wicked discount code, just let them sit there. I just kind of have challenges sitting there just so I can trade them whenever. One of the biggest things is I rotate. I know a lot of people copy trade, so I rotate because I feel like that's the easiest way to manage your risk. So, for example, if I'm due a payout, wait 2 weeks. There's no point trying to trade that. Right? And I could just leave it. So I'll trade another challenge or trade another funded account and just keep rotating.
Different strategies within them. We had Greco on a few weeks ago, and he has a portfolio of strategies.
Oh wow, no, I can't mentally. I can't do that anymore. Like I think, I have 2 strategies that I've built over the years. But it's when you have so much, it's like the spinning plates. You love to like. There was a really good analogy. Is with trading, one thing, one pair, one setup, one trade, one session. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I've got other things to be focusing on, to be building, to be working on.
It works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's key. As you were alluding to earlier, people are trying to find this holy grail. It's got to be you. You've got to own this. It's got to make sense.
Exactly that. And I find that when I trade the best is when I don't care. Like literally and truly, I come in, is there a trade? Yes or no? Done. But when I trade the worst, and I hate myself for doing this, is when I sit there staring at the charts all day, trying to force a trade. And just
you're full ported and I'm wearing every tip.
You already know, like full ported that shit. But like, full said, just being an absolute numpty. And that's actually how I lost that 900K funding, because I was just being a numpty.
Yes, and that does bring on the emotions, doesn't it? And the revenge. Yeah. And whichever ways it categorises. And I'm pretty sure you're big into psychology, aren't you, of all this?
To some degree, yeah. I think that I try to have a balance, like the yin and the yang. I feel like I try not to go too much. Like too much of anything's bad for you. Too much gym, too much drinking, too much.
We'll question that later.
Yeah, I'm gonna bite my tongue there. There's a bad influence as Alex is sitting there.